What is going on, FUD Nation? No, your eyes do not deceive you. I'm here sans green screen. That's right. I'm without my green screen. I'm here. I'm just going to do a normal episode where I'm here in my kitchen. And why am I in my kitchen? Because the light is really great here. It's the best place for the light. I'm looking out at a nice little view of Los Angeles. Unfortunately, when I try to show it to you guys, the camera I use, my sort of webcam, doesn't really auto adjust to the light. But there's LA. I hope you guys enjoyed that view. Anyway, just as I opened up my computer this morning, I noticed that the market got an absolute death candle on the Bitcoin chart. Well, let's just look at this yourselves. I'm going to go down. I'm going to do another style episode I haven't done for a very long time where I'm in the bottom right corner here. Throw an A+ in the comments section if you like the box in the bottom right corner. Throw an F in the comments to pay respect for the green screen with no box. Here we are on CoinMarketCap, and as you can see over the last, what feels like since, my time about 7:30, it's my time about 9:30 right now, and we have just this tremendous fall off in the Bitcoin chart. And we could obviously, based on conjecture, assume that it could be any variety of things: whale play, lack of confidence, it's the bear market overriding people. What I think it might have something to do with is the Bitcoin Cash War and having to take some of the hash power that was being used to uphold the Bitcoin network and use it to fight the Bitcoin Cash War. I'm not quite sure if that's what's happening, maybe some fears that that might happen. Of course, this could just be whales in a very illiquid market deciding to push the market one way or the other. We all know that there are futures like BitMax that you can, if you know you're going to push the market down with a big sell-off, you could actually make a lot of money that way beyond just selling your Bitcoin off by betting that the market's going to go down on BitMax. There's all those theories, but if you guys have your theory on why this Bitcoin price dump is happening right now, and that looks like we're starting to push towards, yearly lows, which is not exactly the most fun thing to be looking at. But before we go look at this too much more deeply, I wanted to talk a little bit about national debt. If we're going to take a bird's eye view of the financial system and looking at really how does Bitcoin fit into the larger financial system, where does it function as part, as a financial instrument of sorts, as it pertains to the global economy, besides just, right now what it's being is sort of gold 2.0 online. How is this going to fit in as we start looking at, the larger trends economically? Now, everybody knows that there's been predicted in the stars and it's written in stone that apparently we're spiraling towards another financial crisis. But what does that even really mean? And when you take a look at the national debt, you start to get a much better idea of what that means. Now, I read an article today on Forbes that I want to share with you guys because I think it's actually pretty interesting here. I'm just going to read this through with you guys, and we got, hopefully we can talk about this in the comments. They say, is debt good or bad? The answer is yes. Everybody knows that debt is borrowing from future money to spend today. Whether it is wise or not depends on what you buy. Debt to educate yourself so you can get a better job, maybe a good idea. Borrowing money to finance your vacation, probably not. But the headline here is that debt does not fuel growth anymore. Now, this is sort of an underpinning idea, is that we borrow money to fuel initiatives that will create more growth in our economy, thereby providing a means by which to pay back that money. This is how you get what they call artificial booms and subsequent busts. A lot of people believe that over the last 10 years, since the 2008 financial crisis, we've been experiencing a largely artificial boom in the United States economy, and that's based on artificially low interest rates and, a lot of borrowed money and a lot of quantitative easing, all of which has not quite come home to roost yet. So all of this extreme growth in the stock market, which is really not necessarily indicative of growth of wealth of every average American, but growth of wealth of the markets at least, which disproportionately usually tend to go into the hands of the few. Regardless, what we're seeing there is what people think is a very artificial boom. Even if it's been substantial and long-term growth, it's been propped up by lots of debt, lots of borrowing, and lots of printing of money and inflation. The problem here is that debt is now losing its ability to stimulate growth. In 2017, $1 of non-financial debt generated only about 40 cents of GDP growth in the US. It's even less elsewhere. This is down from more than $4 of growth for each dollar of debt 50 years ago. It used to be that you would 400%, you'd 4x what your investment was in debt on the growth in the GDP. Now it's down to 40 cents. You're doing a 0.4. That means that we're only having 10% of the movement that we used to have based on every dollar of debt that we borrow. This has seriously worsened over the last decade. China's debt productivity has dropped 42% between 2007 and 2017, and that is the worst among developed economies. So obviously, when you're in a world where using debt to finance your future economic activities has been the tool in your quiver you've been using the most, and when this stops working as well, what do? We start using it even more. So even though debt is being less effective and it's actually creating more debt than it's solving, we're just using more debt to fix that debt. So here's where we talk about a potential day of reckoning. The US economy is so huge and powerful that our current $24.5 trillion in government debt, including state and local, could easily grow to $40 trillion before we meet a day of reckoning, right? We could double almost from here. We are one recession away from a $30 trillion US government debt total, and deficits will stay well above $1 trillion per year every year after that, not unlike now. Notably, the combined debt of the US, Eurozone, and Japan and China has increased more than 10 times as much as their combined GDP growth over the past year. In the past year, our debt has 10x'd our GDP growth. Now remember, the global economy slowing in sync despite soaring debt finds itself in a situation reminiscent of the Red Queen effect we referenced 15 years ago, when tax cuts boosted the US budget deficit much more than GDP. As the Red Queen says to Alice in Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, "Now here, you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that." Now, we also have IBM execs coming out and saying that central bank digital currencies could in some ways help alleviate or ameliorate the conditions that surrounded the 2008 financial crisis. Was that it was triggered by a lack of confidence in delivery versus payment mechanisms that were available at that time. And that combining what central banks have in terms of digital systems for money transfer with the delivery mechanisms for all sorts of commodities, derivatives, and stocks in a blockchain system would be the way we get rid of the kinds of risks we saw in 2008. What we have is a largely digital fiat system anyway. I mean, just to quickly recap, most of the cash that you spend on your credit card or on your debit card doesn't actually even exist in cash form or any other physical form. It's just a number on a computer screen that is controlled by the bank's server. So in essence, having another digital money system wouldn't necessarily be much different than that right now. It's not like we're upending anything. And of course, even though we have the IMF making some weird moves with the Marshall Islands, the head of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, has said there may be a role for a state to supply more money to the digital economy, and that they're actually looking into cryptocurrencies as a potential instrument to really help the next generation of, global economics and global capitalism. So anyway, just to recap briefly, we talked a little bit about the national debt, how it's spiraling, and how really, over time, keeping borrowing money is not helping us get out of this crisis, and it's just making it worse. So the question is, what are we going to do? As we've seen with spirals of hyperinflation, like down in Venezuela, what are they doing to get their hands on better money? The volume on local Bitcoin is, quote, mooning in Venezuela, because as you can see, this chart, it just keeps going up because people have recognized that this is a much better way to store their actual wealth than the current Venezuelan, bolivar. So anyway, what do you guys think about the spiraling national debt, the spiraling global debt, and how global debt right now is not actually working to facilitate any kind of GDP growth? What do you think the next step is? Do you think this is coming to a big day of reckoning? Do you think cryptocurrencies will gradually come in to occupy the fiat systems in the form of CBDCs? Or do you think people are just going to end up throwing their money en masse into Bitcoin? Let me know in the comment section below. This debt thing has got me thinking a lot about what the next few years of the economy will look like. We're going to quickly run through a few more pieces of news before we talk about a second sort of subsequent main topic today. South Korea messaging giant Kakao has partnered with a stablecoin for their blockchain payment ecosystem. As I've said before, stablecoins are an incredible business. We're going to keep seeing a lot of them pop up. We also have South Korea declaring that banks are required to provide, quote, fair services to crypto exchanges. It does seem like a bit of a catch-22, but in the end, these crypto businesses need to use banks and banking services. Most of them don't really have the ability to function without any banking services, so this is a phenomenal leap forward. We also have a list. I'm not going to go down it. I'm not going to read this whole article, but we have 4 young people made the Forbes 30 under 30 for pushing forward blockchain technology, and we can see that this will continue to be the case, that innovators across the tech world or across the blockchain space will continue to make headlines. But congratulations to these 4 for making the list. We also have Ripple declaring that they're not partnering with Swift. Instead, they're taking them over. Get ready, Swift. Ripple is coming to town. We already knew that. I don't know. These were just random rumors that they're going to partner with Swift. But no, they're coming into clean house, and it's going to be a war. And finally, now the sort of plot thickens in my mind as it pertains to the Bitcoin Cash fork. I know people might not care about this, but the civil war is underway here, and the Bitcoin ABC, this is the Roger Ver, Jihan Wu Bitmain fork here. They're saying they're reserving a quote nuclear option to switch the proof of work algorithm away from SHA-256, and that would essentially prevent Bitcoin Cash's and that would essentially prevent Satoshi's Vision fork, which is Craig Wright's fork, from attacking them. Supposedly, I didn't quite realize this, but Craig Wright is saying that they have the dominant hash power on the Satoshi's Vision fork. Now, I didn't understand how this could be possible because Bitmain is behind Jihan Wu, and they control more hashing power, I understood, than anyone in the world. But supposedly, CoinDance is estimating that 75 to 80% of miners are signaling for Satoshi's Vision compared to just 15 to 27% for ABC. I didn't realize this, and I guess I misinterpreted the reports. All of the businesses and the community seems to support the Bitcoin ABC, which is Roger Ver and Bitmain and Bitcoin Cash, or the sort of original Bitcoin Cash gang. Beyond that, the community is pricing the Bitcoin ABC tokens at almost $400 versus Satoshi's Vision being priced at $129. So this is kind of an interesting revelation that there actually might be more hash power in support of Professor Craig S. Wright, Dr. Faustus, who says, "Do you really want to mine for nothing? Others say I'm bluffing. I'm not. Every Satoshi ever mined and earned on BCH using ABC will be reversed. You mine ABC, you piss in the wind and burn electricity for nothing. It's a promise." So those are some fighting words, if I've ever heard them. And then we furthermore have the news that Jihan Wu is actually getting ousted somewhat from the board. They're definitely having a board shakeup. They denied that Jihan Wu is stepping down as the chairman of the board, but we don't know as of yet how Bitmain is going to look after this fork. And finally, Bitfinex is allowing you to place bets on what's going to happen here. And they're actually not calling either of the forks Bitcoin Cash, as I understand it. They're calling it Bitcoin ABC, BAB, and then BSV. So they're having their own sort of betting system where you can bet on which fork is going to perform and how well they're going to perform, and that they're going to liquidate you in BAB and BSV. And furthermore, now we have Poloniex saying that they're going to list all three coins, Bitcoin Cash ABC, and Bitcoin Cash SV. And meanwhile, people keep stocking up on their Bitcoin Cash because they're pretty sure they're going to get two coins of value that at least are worth more than their one Bitcoin Cash. Jihan Wu actually made a statement saying that if he turned his mining power from the Bitcoin main blockchain to just participate in this war on Bitcoin Cash, that the lack of mining power, that the change in mining power would create a drop in price on Bitcoin that might actually, send the coin below the $5,000 mark, which is essentially why he's saying, he might not want to participate in this Bitcoin Cash war. But this is crazy. I didn't quite realize that, Jihan Wu wasn't going to be flexing his mining strength. And that might explain why, at least right now on paper, it looks like Bitcoin SV has more miners that are supporting it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. How is this Bitcoin Cash fork gonna end? Did you guys like the video without the green screen? If you did like the video without the green screen, throw me a 1 in the comments. If you don't like it, you want me to bring the green screen back, throw me a 2 in the comments. If you want me to mix it up here and there, some green screen, some without green screen, throw me a 3 in the comments. If you like the pineapple, give me a number 4. As usual, I'm Elio Trades, you're watching FUD TV, and I'll see you very, very soon on the next episode.